Celebrating issue 900 of The Amazing Spider-Man. One thing I love about this comic book cover is that in the comic book, you're going to see Spidey wearing the Dr. Octopus tentacles. In this comic, when I first saw the cover and I didn't read the book, I'm like, yeah, that's totally his tentacles. It could look like it's Otto Octavius's tentacles. Okay, look at that. But then can it also be coming out of Spider-Man also here and here and here? That is a great touch. Whoever did this comic book cover, John Romita Jr. did this comic book cover. I like that touch. So it's about the Sinister Six. This comic is an homage and a reward for the longtime readers, whether you've been reading one comic or 900 comics. Issue 8 of Amazing Spider-Man from 1963. If you read that, you're up to date here. You know the adventures, and many fans do. Marvel reprinted like a collection of those earlier works recently. So it's not, and plus it's Spider-Man. People go to the beginning of Spider-Man when they want to read Spider-Man. So this was a reward for people who did that. And I'm all for that. Remember, it's part of your canon. What I'm not for, in a minor way, this is a minor nitpick because this is an overall win. This definitely was a celebration, 900 accomplishment, and whoop-de-doo, like I'm all for it. Plus, at the end, I knew there was going to be these like little nothing stories towards the ending, and I'm fine with the Jimmy Kimmel story. I'm fine with here's the Jimmy Kimmel story, by the way. He's like, which Spider-Man? There's like 5 of them, and then Jimmy's like, yeah, there's like a lot of Jimmys also. So no, I didn't read the whole Jimmy Kimmel story. I just was like, oh yeah, there's always going to be inconsequential books whenever they do these big anniversary issues. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit of inconsequential pages. I'll read that and I'll get to it eventually. But I'm fine with what they did. I do like though that Ed McGuinness put in all this work, and he did, and it was an Ed McGuinness comic book. The artwork throughout was Ed McGuinness, and that man is my favorite artist. Everything got blue, everything's back to yellow. That guy's my guy. So Ed McGuinness in a celebration, in a consistent, coherent story where they didn't go part 1, part 2, part 3 like they did for issue 850. Remember when that was a $10 book? Not a fan of that. But sort of, and look at this image of J. Jonah Jameson, man. That's so three-dimensional, you know what I mean? Lovely stuff over there from Edward McGuinness. I was on the verge. Kindred, okay. Now, Kindred was a new villain who we thought, oh, this is new. This new comic is valuable where he appears in. It turned out that Kindred was nothing but like a clone of Gwen Stacy or some stupid thing like that. It's not even worth remembering. When I first saw this The Living Brain guy, I was like, ooh, brand new villain. First, I thought it was Chameleon, but then I go, okay, so there's this dude here who just appeared, and I love that we're getting new villains. I don't necessarily like that it was a white guy villain because Spider-Man, and this is something we mentioned a couple streams ago, Spider-Man would be better off to have a black superhero villain, a new one, more of them. And likewise for Batman. That way you can do a Batman movie where you don't gotta fill your racial quotas by reskinning Commissioner Gordon into Jeffrey White. Instead, you can say, no, we need someone black in this Batman movie. Let's make a black Batman villain even more popular. Let's elevate black characters with speaking of color. Hey. You get my point, though. I prefer that over, oh, let's just take the skin color and rearrange it so that we're not racist in our movie. That doesn't accomplish anything long term. For the short term, sure, a black man got a job, but for the long term, the popularity of black superheroes and characters doesn't move forward at all when you do it that way. Because I mean, things are finite. So that was the thing with the Living Brain. He's not a new character. Steve Ditko and Stan Lee created that Living Brain character, and therefore, when the movie rights come up, there's not gonna, and they do a Living Brain movie, they will not have to pay some new creator under some new like Writers Guild or whatever freaking association of creation BS that the studio doesn't want to abide by. That's cheap, if you ask me. It's also why we're not getting many new villains and new heroes and new things. I'm not a fan of that. The Living Brain, some guy from all these years ago, being used here just because you wanted to, just because it was an economic decision. That's my take on that. And we all know that we're kind of sick of it. We should actually demand new characters because sometimes they're awesome. Big salute to Donny Cates because Null is somewhat of a new character, and I'd love to see him play out, especially after the Thor: Love and Thunder movie and after the Venom appearing in Spider-Man: No Way Home. We can do a story. Something can there's something there, and maybe the courage of Donny Cates creating a new character, even though he knows he's not going to be seeing much money from it. Maybe he'll get a movie cameo, but that's really not really much about this comic book. As far as the comic goes, the action is there, the intrigue is there. It's about Spider-Man and who is Spider-Man. The secret identity of Spider-Man is Peter. The people in this comic book knew who Peter was and weren't willing to rat him out. That's cool. The sentience of the octopus arms was really cool. Even towards the end, the big twist. Spoiler alert, folks. And you should be reading this comic book. It is worth the money. It's a $10 book. But remember, it's the issue 900 of Spider Man. It's celebrating him, and it's something that you want to experience for the first time. But spoiler alert, at the ending, where he goes, "Hey, yo, happy birthday, Peter. How did you know it was my name?" But, he pulled the plug on him anyways. There's someone who knows his abilities, his secret identity. That's something that could be built on maybe in issue 940. I don't know, but there's definitely something here. And if Nick Lowe is still part of the comic book, Nick Lowe probably not probably the best editor over at Marvel. He's always informing me with a little bit of personality too. It's fun. It's always necessary, usually necessary. So Nick Lowe, if he's still doing this comic book, I can expect more from the Living Brain because it was a hit in my subjective opinion of how this goes. The Amazing Spider-Man issue 900. Two thumbs up. It's a comic book about fighting villains, celebrating sorts of the history of the villains. What more can you ask for, guys? I'm going to read these extra pages. I hope you all have a good day. Like the video if you like me.